A human technician gains the galaxy's oldest warship and trembles when he steps into the command deck. Elias Rowan had spent most of his life fixing things nobody cared about anymore. Broken cargo drones, cracked hull plates, old machines abandoned by richer species who preferred replacement over repair. That was the human way, at least out here on the edge of the galaxy. Make it work again, even if everyone else gave up on it. The salvage ring of Capri, 9 drifted quietly around a dying red star. Massive metal arms held thousands of wrecks in slow rotation, like a graveyard frozen in space. Most workers hated the place. Elias didn't. Silence made it easier to think. He floated beside a dull black mass officially labeled Derelict Object 4471B. The tag said non-functional debris. Elias frowned behind his helmet. Debris doesn't reflect scans like that, he muttered. The surface wasn't shiny, but it wasn't dead either. His scanner showed inconsistent readings, density shifts, energy echoes that shouldn't exist. The metal looked ancient, scarred by weapons so old they didn't match any known records. Alien supervisors floated nearby, watching from a safe distance. Human technician, chirped Supervisor Criff, a tall insect-like being wrapped in glowing symbols. Finish your inspection quickly. That object is scheduled for dismantling. Ilias tapped the hull gently with a magnetic tool. Bunk. The sound echoed, then changed. It came back deeper, like knocking on a mountain instead of metal. That's not hollow, Ilias said. And it's not dead, Kurth clicked in irritation. Your species sees patterns where none exist. Yeah, Elias replied calmly. That's kind of our thing. He drifted closer and placed his gloved hand on the surface. The metal was warm, not heated. Alive warm. His heart rate increased. No power source detected, Kurth insisted. It is safe. Elias didn't answer. Well, he followed instinct, tracing faint grooves in the hull. Symbols. Old. Worn down by time and war. He didn't understand them, but they felt intentional. Then his scanner beeped. Signal detected. Passive. Listening. Elias swallowed. Supervisor, he said slowly. How old did you say this thing was? Kurth hesitated. Records estimate older than the first galactic accord. Elias froze. That meant before the galaxy agreed not to destroy itself. He rerouted power from his suit into a handheld diagnostic probe. Nothing fancy, just basic human tools. He sent a low-frequency pulse through the hull, the kind used to test structural integrity. The response nearly knocked him backward. Energy surged. Lights flared across the black surface like stars waking up. Alarms screamed across the salvage ring. Kurth shrieked in panic. Human! What did you do? I knocked, Elias said honestly. The hull opened. Not violently. Not mechanically. It unfolded like a living thing stretching after a long sleep. A doorway formed, smooth and perfectly sized for a human. Inside was darkness and depth, the kind that made your stomach drop just by looking at it. Every alien nearby retreated instantly. That is impossible, Kurth whispered. No species has opened it in millennia. Elias stared at the doorway, his hands shaking. He didn't feel threatened. He felt invited. Before he could overthink it, the doorway pulled him in. The interior was vast. Elias drifted through corridors that adjusted to his movement, floors forming beneath his boots, gravity softly engaging. Lights followed him, gentle and non-threatening. This isn't a wreck, he murmured. It's a museum. Or a tomb. Or a mind. He reached a massive chamber and stopped dead. The command deck. It was older than any civilization still alive. Consoles floated in the air, shifting shapes as if waiting to be understood. At the center stood a raised platform, surrounded by symbols that pulsed slowly. Elias's legs felt weak. For the first time since entering, fear hit him hard. Okay, he whispered. Okay, You can just turn around. He didn't. The moment he stepped onto the platform, the room reacted. Energy surged upward, wrapping around him without touching. Images flooded the air. Wars, stars collapsing, fleets burning, entire species erased. Elias gasped and dropped to one knee. "This ship fought a war the galaxy forgot," he said, voice trembling. "Didn't it?" A voice answered. Not loud, not threatening. "Confirmation. War classification. Extinction level." Elias's breath caught. The voice paused, then shifted. Language adaptation complete. The next words were in perfect human standard. Identity required. Elias swallowed hard. Elias Rowan, technician. Human.
Silence followed.
Then human. The word carried weight. Curiosity. Calculation. You are not a commander.
No, Elias agreed quickly.
I fix things. That's all. The ship hummed softly. You repaired me? Illis blinked. I knocked. You listened. Images changed. The ship showed aliens trying to force access, burn through systems, dominated. All had failed. Then it showed Elias, using simple tools, patience, curiosity. Why? The ship asked. Elias thought for a moment. Because if something still exists, he said, it probably wants to. The silence this time felt different. Heavy, judging. Outside, the salvage ring descended into chaos. Fleets changed course. Emergency signals spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Arcos dreadframe has awakened. Back inside, the ship spoke again. Previous custodians failed. They sought control. The platform beneath Elias rose slightly. You seek understanding. Elias felt the weight of the galaxy press down on him. I don't want a warship, he said quietly. I don't want power! The ship paused, then delivered words that made his blood run cold. That is why you were chosen. The command deck sealed. Outside access shut down completely. But alien fleet stopped advancing. The galaxy watched in fear. And a human technician, hands still shaking, stood alone on the bridge of the oldest warship ever built, realizing his life would never be small again. Elias Rowan stood very still. The command deck had sealed itself completely. The doorway that brought him inside no longer existed. Smooth black walls surrounded him, curved and endless, glowing with soft light that moved like slow breathing. His hands were shaking. Not because he was weak, because the entire galaxy now felt very far away. Okay, Elias said quietly, forcing his voice to stay calm. You chose me. That's not normal. So maybe we start slow. The ship did not answer right away. Instead, the deck shifted. The floating symbols moved closer, forming shapes that felt familiar. Consoles adjusted height and distance, matching his reach without him asking. Gravity stabilized perfectly for human balance. It was learning him. Elias swallowed. You're adapting to me. Affirmative, the voice replied. Human neurologic prioritized. That's a bad idea, Elias muttered. We're not exactly stable. A pause. Instability is a survival trait. Elias laughed once, nervous and sharp. Yeah, we noticed. Far outside the ship, panic spread like fire. The salvage ring of Capri, 9 was in full emergency lockdown. Alien workers fled to shelters. Supervisors screamed into comms that no one was answering. Supervisor Kurth watched the ancient warship from a command pod, his mandibles shaking. It has sealed itself, he hissed. And it has taken the human. A higher authority responded on a secure channel. This is Council Observer Valar, came a cold, smooth voice. Confirm the identity of the intruder. He is not an intruder, Kurth said weakly. The ship opened for him. Silence. Then Valar spoke again. Slower now. Then the worst-case scenario has occurred. Back on the command deck, Elias walked in a slow circle, taking everything in. There were no chairs, no physical screens, just space and light and quiet power. I'm guessing you don't need buttons, he said. Pickaxes are optional. Good, Elias replied, because I'd probably break them. A faint hum rippled through the room. If the ship could feel emotion, it almost sounded like amusement. Images appeared in the air. Stars. Fleets. Weapons so large they bent space around them. Elias's breath caught. That's too much. This is a fraction, the ship said. This vessel was built to end all wars. Elias felt cold. That never works, he said softly. The images shifted again. Civilizations rising, expanding, fighting, burning, falling into silence. Correct, the ship replied. Organic species repeat patterns. Elias clenched his fists. Then why wake up now? Another pause. Longer this time. Threat conditions re-emerging. The deck darkened slightly. New images appeared. Modern alien fleets, secret weapons, growing borders, hidden tensions. Elias recognized the pattern instantly. You're saying the galaxy is heading toward another extinction war? Probability increasing. Elias closed his eyes. I'm just a technician, he whispered. You picked the wrong person, the ship answered immediately. Negative. The floor beneath Elias shifted, forming a low platform. Not a throne, just a place to stand comfortably. Command does not require desire, the voice said. It requires judgment. Elias looked down at his hands. They were still shaking. Then why am I scared? He asked. The ship responded with something unexpected. It showed him Elias as a child, fixing broken machines in a small human colony. Elias watching his parents argue over scarce resources. Elias choosing repair work over combat training. Affair indicates awareness of consequence, the ship said. Previous commanders lacked this. Elias let out a slow breath. That's not comforting. A sudden alarm echoed across the deck. Not loud. Not violent, just present. Multiple fleets entering weapon range, the ship reported. Elias's heart jumped. Already? Yes. Images filled the air. Dozens of alien warships emerging from hyperspace around Caprienne. 9. Different species, different designs, united by fear. They're going to destroy you, Elias said. Attempt likely, and me with you. Another pause. Your safety is a priority. Elias stared. Why? You are the first in 6 million cycles to be accepted. Outside, Council Observer Valor spoke to the assembled fleets. This vessel represents an unacceptable risk, Valor declared. If the human is in control, then the human is compromised. We demand immediate surrender of the warship. The message was broadcast on every frequency. Inside the command deck, Elias heard it clearly. They want me to give you up, he said. Do you intend to comply? Elias hesitated. I don't know, he admitted. I don't even know what you can do. The ship showed him weapon systems that could erase fleets, shields that ignored physics, engines that folded space like paper. Elias felt sick. No, he said quickly. No, hide those. The images faded. Why? Because if they see that, Elias said, voice tight, they won't stop until you're destroyed. Or used. The ship was silent. Then, strategy accepted. Elias exhaled. Thank you. Supervisor Kurth nearly collapsed when the warship responded. Not with weapons. With silence. All targeting systems across the surrounding fleets went dark. Not destroyed. Just turned off. Panic erupted.
What is happening? One admiral screamed.
Baylor's voice remained calm. but his eyes were wide. "The vessel is demonstrating restraint," he said slowly. That is unexpected. Inside, Elias felt his knees weaken. "You did that?" he asked. "Non-lethal system suppression," the ship replied. "Your preference." Elias laughed shakily. "I didn't even say it out loud. You did not need to." Elias leaned forward, resting his hands on nothing. "Listen to me," he said. "I don't want to fight them. I don't want to rule them. I just want them to stop being scared. The ship processed this." "FER is logical," it replied. "You possess a weapon capable of ending civilization." Elias nodded slowly. "So does a knife. Or a star. That doesn't mean you swing it around." The deck light softened. "Human logic is inefficient," the ship said, "and effective." Elias smiled despite himself. Outside, Valor sent another message. "Human technician Elias Rowan," the council observer said. "If you can hear this, understand the galaxy will not allow one individual to hold such power."
Elias took a deep breath. "Then maybe," he whispered, "they shouldn't have built it that way." The ship waited. "ISSU command." Elias trembled again. Not from fear this time. From understanding. "Open communications," he said. "All channels, I'll speak." The command deck responded instantly. Across the galaxy, every screen flickered to life. And for the first time in history, a human technician stood at the center of galactic attention, about to prove that humanity's greatest strength was not power, but choice. Every screen in known space lit up at the same time. On warships, on space stations, in council chambers and private command rooms, even on forgotten outposts that rarely received news. The image was the same everywhere. A human, not wearing armor. Not standing on a throne, just a man in a technician's suit, floating calmly inside a vast and ancient command deck. Elias Rowan took a slow breath. He could feel the weight of billions of eyes on him. "This is Elias Rowan," he said, voice steady but quiet. "I'm not a commander. I'm not a soldier. I fix broken things." Many alien leaders reacted with confusion. Some with anger, a few with fear. Council observer Valor watched closely, his hands folded behind his back. "A human lies," Valor said calmly to those around him. "They always hide intent."
Inside the ancient warship, the Arcos dreadframe listened.
"Stress levels elevated," the ship noted. Assistance offered. Elias shook his head slightly. "No. Let me do this." "The ship you're afraid of," Elias continued, "was built to end wars, and it almost ended everything instead." Images appeared behind him. Old battles, stars burning, fleets erased. The galaxy watched in silence. "I didn't build it. I didn't ask for it. But it woke up because I listened instead of forcing it." A ripple passed through the alien fleets. Valor narrowed his eyes. "He admits control." Elias raised one hand. "I know what you're thinking," he said. "You think I'll become a tyrant, or a hero, or a weapon." He paused. "I don't want to be any of those." A murmur spread across the channels. On the bridge of a heavily armed battlecruiser, Admiral Threx slammed a clawed fist into a console. "This is manipulation," Threx snarled. "A distraction. Humans always pretend weakness." Without warning, Threx gave the order. Fire. A single ship broke formation. Weapons charged. Inside the Arcos dreadframe, alarms did not sound. The ship spoke calmly. "Hostile action detected." Elias's heart jumped. "Can you stop it?" "Yes." "Without killing anyone." A pause. Probability reduced. "Try anyway," Elias said firmly. The ship adjusted. Space twisted. The attacking ship's weapons shut down mid-charge. Its engines stalled. The vessel drifted helplessly. Unharmed, but powerless. Across the galaxy, silence exploded. Admiral Threx stared at his dark screens in disbelief. Valor's calm finally cracked. That ship disabled a war cruiser without firing, someone whispered. Delia swallowed. I could destroy fleets, he said into the open channel. The ship makes that very clear. But if I do that, I become what you fear. He lowered his hand. So I won't. Council members erupted into arguments. He must be stopped now. He just proved restraint. This is a trick. Vaylor raised a hand, silencing them. Human, Vaylor said slowly, addressing Elias directly. You claim moral intent. Yet intent changes. Power corrupts. Elias nodded. You're right. That answer shocked them. I'm human, Elias said. I get tired. I get angry. I make mistakes. That's why I shouldn't rule anyone. The Arcos dreadframe listened closely. Statement logged, Elias continued. So here's my choice. The deck lights brightened. I will not give this ship to the Council. And I will not use it to control the galaxy. Gasps echoed across channels. Vaylor's eyes hardened. Then you declare war. No, Elias said quietly. I declare limits. Inside the ship, ancient systems stirred. You propose restriction, the ship said. Yes, Elias replied. Lock away your main weapons. Seal them. Tie them to one condition. Define condition. Elias took a deep breath. They only unlock if the galaxy faces extinction again, not war. Not politics. Extinction. Silence fell. Even the most aggressive leaders stopped speaking. Vaylor leaned forward. You would disable the greatest weapon ever built? Yes, Elias said. Because if no one can trust themselves with it, then no one deserves it. The Arcos dreadframe processed. Time stretched. Action irreversible, the ship warned. Elias nodded. I know. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from understanding what he was giving up. Do it. Deep within the ship, ancient mechanisms shifted. Energy signatures vanished. Weapon systems older than civilization shut down, locking themselves behind logic gates that no single being could override. Across the galaxy, sensors confirmed it. The Arcos dreadframe had disarmed itself. Vaylor stood frozen. He reduced his own power, someone whispered. Elias let out a long breath he didn't know he'd been holding. I'm not your enemy, he said softly, and I don't want to be your ruler. He looked straight into the camera. But if anyone tries to use fear to wipe out others, this ship will wake up again. The response was immediate. Some fleets withdrew. Others stayed, cautious, but no longer hostile. Supervisor Karth collapsed into a seat, his limbs weak. The human chose limitation. Vaylor stared at the screen. For the first time, Vaylor said quietly, a species has been given absolute power and refused it. Inside the command deck, Elias finally felt the tension drain from his body. His knees gave out and he sat on the smooth floor. That was terrifying, he muttered. The ship responded gently. You have altered probability paths.
For better or worse, Elias said.
For survival, the ship corrected. Elias looked up. So what happens now? The Arcos dreadframe shifted. The deck changed not into a throne room, but into something simpler. Familiar. Almost human. You remain custodian, it said.
Not as a weapon.
But as a warning. Elias smiled weakly. That sounds like a lot of responsibility. You accepted it when you chose restraint. Outside, the galaxy slowly returned to motion, but nothing felt the same anymore. Because humanity had done something no one expected. They had been trusted with ultimate power, and proved they deserved trust by not using it. The galaxy did not explode. That surprised everyone. After the Arcos dreadframe locked away its ancient weapons, most leaders had expected chaos. Civil war, panic, a race to seize what little advantage remained. Instead, something quieter happened. People started to think. Fleets slowly withdrew from Cape Rieti. 9. Not all at once, not with trust, but with caution. The kind of caution that followed witnessing something impossible. A human had been given ultimate power, and had chosen not to use it. Elias Rowan stood alone on the command deck. The space around him felt different now, lighter, less tense. The ship's presence was still vast, still ancient, but no longer overwhelming. He rubbed his face and let out a tired breath. "I think," he said to the empty room, "I just changed my entire species' reputation."
Accurate, the Arcos Dreadframe replied. Human Perception Index Rapid Shift. That sounds bad. Not negative, the ship corrected.
Unfamiliar. Elias gave a small smile. "Yeah, that's us." Across the galaxy, the consequences began to spread. Human embassies that once struggled for attention were suddenly flooded with requests, not demands, not threats. Questions. How do humans decide who leads? Why do humans distrust absolute power? How did a technician succeed where emperors failed? Historians rewrote timelines. Philosophers argued late into their cycles. Military strategists stared at battle simulations that now felt wrong, because they had all been built on the same assumption, that power was meant to be used. Council observer Vaylor stood before the Galactic Council, his posture rigid. "We misjudged them," Vaylor said, voice controlled but heavy. "Not because they are stronger, but because they are willing to limit themselves."
A council member scoffed. They could be lying.
"Waiting." Vaylor shook his head slowly. "If they were waiting," he said, "the human would have kept the weapons active. Fear is leverage." He discarded it. Silence followed. That silence carried weight. Inside the Arcos Dreadframe, Elias walked the command deck again. Consoles reshaped themselves into clearer forms, simple readouts, understandable layouts. "You're still adapting," Elias noticed. "Yes," the ship said. "Long-term custodian identified."
Elias stopped. Long-term?
"Your biological lifespan is limited," the ship said plainly. "Succession protocol required." Elias laughed softly. "You're already thinking past me."
Humans think forward, the ship replied.
"I am learning." Elias leaned against a railing that hadn't existed a moment ago. "So what am I now?" he asked.
A commander? A symbol? A problem?
The ship paused.
You are a check. Elias blinked.
"On what?" "On hubris." He smiled at that. "We're very good at spotting that. Mostly because we've suffered from it." Weeks passed. The Arcos Dreadframe did not move from Capri. 9. That too was a choice. Instead of patrolling space like a god, it stayed still, silent proof that it existed but did not interfere. Elias refused titles. He refused ranks. He accepted only one role: custodian. He spent his days learning the ship, not its weapons, but its systems, its history, its failures. The Arcos Dreadframe had ended wars before. Every time it had been followed by something worse. Elias understood why. One cycle a message arrived from a distant sector, a border conflict. 2 species, old grudges. Escalation approaching extinction levels. The ship detected it instantly. "Condition threshold approaching," it warned. Elias studied the data carefully. "Not yet. They're close," he said. "But they can still choose. You would wait?" "Yes," Elias said firmly. "If we solve every problem for them, they'll never learn." The ship considered this. Human teaching method confirmed. Instead of deploying weapons, Elias did something unexpected. He opened communication, not with threats, with records. He shared the Arcos Dreadframe's history, the extinct species, the ruined stars, the cost of winning too absolutely. He showed them what ending a war truly meant. The conflict slowed, then stopped. No victory, no surrender, just survival. Elias leaned back in relief. "Good choice. You did not command," the ship noted. "You advised." "That's usually enough," Elias said. Years passed. Humanity changed, not overnight. Not perfectly. Humans were still human. But something had shifted. They were no longer seen as minor repair specialists or reckless newcomers. They were seen as keepers of balance, not because they were peaceful, but because they understood consequences. Children across species learned a new phrase: do not wake the human unless you are ready to listen. Elias aged. Gray touched his hair. Lines formed on his face. His hand shook again, not from fear, but time. The Arcos dreadframe never rushed him.
Succession protocol ready, it said one day. Elias nodded slowly.
I figured. He had trained others, not soldiers.
Not politicians. Technicians.
Engineers, mediators, people who fixed things. The ship watched them closely. Not their strength, their restraint. On Elias's final day as active custodian, he stood once more at the center of the command deck. Do you regret choosing me? He asked quietly. The ship answered without delay. No. Elias smiled. Good, because I was terrified. You trembled, the ship said, and stepped forward, regardless. Elias chuckled. That might be the most human thing about me. He turned toward the viewport, looking out at the stars. Promise me something, he said. State request. Never forget why you were sealed away in the first place. The ship's lights dimmed respectfully. I will remember. Long after Elias Rowan passed into history, the Arcos dreadframe remained. Silent, watching, waiting. Not for war, but for the moment when the galaxy might forget its lessons again. And when that day comes, it will not awaken for kings or conquerors. It will awaken for those who tremble and still choose to protect life. Because the greatest warship ever built did not belong to the strongest species. It belonged to the one wise enough to say, not yet, and hopefully never.